Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Now available to order at your local comic shop, it's Sal Abenanti's new graphic novel, The Hostage.
Hostage is set in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, based on the plight of the street children that live in the favelas. In the world of the graphic novel, being murdered daily, and the hostage is the evil spirit that is raised to avenge their death. Origins go all the way back to the indigenous tribes of the Amazon as the spirits that protect children, especially murdered children. The level of death that these kids have to endure every day. They have nowhere to sleep, they have no place to eat, they have to survive off of begging. There were nobody in capes that were coming to save these kids.
Pick up Sal Abenanti's latest graphic novel, The Hostage. Order now at your local comic shop through Diamond's Previews catalog. Code DEC221534. Welcome back, everybody. That is solo on Geoff for a second to show you.
I was like, hey, what's up?
Our important guest, John Such, is here with Word Balloon. Always happy to welcome Geoff Johns back to Word Balloon. Hot off the season 3 finale and series finale, I guess, of Stargirl. Bittersweet, Geoff, but good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too, John.
Great ending, great wrap up. I'm sad, man, because I really had hoped, given what's happening with Warner's and Discovery and some of the other things we hear about TV, that maybe Stargirl would migrate to HBO Max for subsequent seasons. But is that still a possibility or no? It's done.
No. We're finished. We've wrapped up our show, and I'm it's very bittersweet. I just talked to Breck actually, but we're so proud of it, and we had such a great time doing it, and. I've said it before many times, but when I originally pitched it to, when it's on DC streaming, I always had 3 seasons in mind because I thought, well, hopefully we'll get 3, a trilogy of seasons. And, we had other ideas for seasons and everything else, but to be able to finish that initial storyline and to do it the way we wanted to do it, how we wanted to do it, nobody, they let us do our thing. And I'm really grateful that we got to do it our way. No one was telling us what to do, and to be able to just do a JSA show with Stargirl at the center and work with an amazing cast, amazing crew, amazing writers, amazing post people, and to create a show that has created such a great positive fan base. I'm really, really proud of that. And the people, we were in COVID when we made it, so we didn't get to go to shows and talk to people, but we went to our first show in Chicago, where I saw you this summer. And a few of us were there, and it was so nice to meet families and kids and comic fans and show fans, just to meet all these people that the show really resonated with them, and they got what we were going for, which was a very hopeful, show about legacy and family and found family and step parents and step children, and bring out the best in anybody. It was something that meant a lot to us. So it's very bittersweet today, as we're recording this now, I guess this will be aired after the day after, but we're recording this now as the finale is about to come out and drop tonight. And it's it's a day. It's a very emotional day, but there's a lot of mixed emotions. But most of all, I'm really grateful we got to do it.
Well, and it really serves as a great introduction to the DC universe for first timers. It's a great family show that parents can share their love of these heroes with their kids, and they themselves be introduced to a new legacy era of heroes. It did everything you wanted it to, Geoff. I know it did, and you really stuck the landing with this in this final episode.
Yeah,
And I loved the Shades tease of what was to come afterwards and stuff. And oh man, if only you could have done the Seven Soldiers of Victory Nebula Man rescue.
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
things.
was so fun.
That, yeah, I mean, how I like. Obviously, you're kind of grocery list checking some of those great moments
Yeah,
with JSA characters. But yeah, tell me, was that part of the hopeful ambition?
yeah. I mean, really, that last final scene. So, spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched it yet. You should turn this off right now and go watch it.
Oh yeah, there's warnings. Don't worry.
Yeah, warnings all over the place. That final scene, it was really important. That final scene was really important to have a glimpse into tomorrow, right? And have a glimpse into their legacies continuing and the heroes. And we get like a look at everybody's future through that lens. And it was important that our main characters weren't in that scene, that it was told from the point of view of somebody like the Shade and our surprise guest star, Jay Garrick.
Absolutely.
It just made it fun. And we wanted to go out on I really wanted to for people to end it on a really hopeful, heart-swelling note, because that's what the show is. That's what the show's always been. That's what, our first 2 seasons ended that way. And I also wanted to give people an ending. Like the fact that we knew that CW was going to go through all these changes, and a lot of wonderful shows were going to go away, and unfortunately more to come. I think the gift we had was that we had foresight, that I could see see where it was going already with all the changes in the whole business, but particularly CW, and ultimately now Warner and Discovery. It was great that we had the opportunity to write to an ending. And I had this ending in mind already. So it was really easy. And to be able to kind of touch upon some of the other adventures we would have explored if we had kept going, like the Seven Soldiers and whatnot. That was fun too, because, your imagination can build that season out, and it can exist however you want. But it did happen. Those stories did happen, even though you didn't see them. And so that's why, I look at that there's very few endings that, that you look at and it's hard to do endings. This one felt very satisfying for me emotionally when I wrote it, when we shot it, when we edited it, which took forever. When we put it together, all the VFX, Zoic killed it on the visual effects in this episode. And the cast did too. So I still cry several times when I watch it.
I understand, man. Oh yeah, no. I can imagine the social media responses. I got the feels watching the end of Stargirl, and I get it, man. No, absolutely. Well, and the great thing, Geoff, truly is, as you say, the show debuted during COVID. You were making it, and really, I think, especially with that first season, there was this just lost feeling that we were all having in terms of, how long are we gonna have to live through this? And here's this great positive show that, Breck really just embodies Courtney, and
she does.
And I imagine exactly, like, just the way this show is cast top to bottom, but it really does it. It's like, no, really, as tough as things got for these kids and the adults in these 3 seasons, there was always hope. There's always no, we got to move forward. And really, this season with the Ultra Humanite and Starman, oh, it was so great. Yeah. And I know James Robinson, obviously part of your producing, writing team. Little touches of the Golden Age, great JSA story in this season. Oh man, it was just so great to see it all come together in such a great way. The Ultra Humanite's backstory. And
I love it.
Dolores, the actress that.
So crazy. Like we got to flesh that out. One of the great things about working on a show like this, obviously I love the JSA and these characters, but you get to spend more time with the characters. You get to delve more into who they are and how they feel, and you get the emotions out. You get music and all this other stuff. But one of the fun things of this was also, like, we got to show Dolores Winters, who was she, and get into that and explore her more, because you don't really get that in comics, right? You don't have that. You don't have all the stuff you do in a show, and when something's on screen, and it was fun to do that. And when you talk about like the show during COVID, you know, for us, like the show is about hope, but really it's about people who care about other people. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the people care about each other, and that's what makes the show work. People really learn. If they don't learn to care about each other, if they don't care about each other, they learn to, and that's what the show is, right? Is making relationships with people and caring about other people. But it was a gift to us too, because it did come out during COVID, and you know, although we did our writers' room virtually in seasons 2 and you know, for the most part 3, we did our writers' room virtually. We like I was on set every day in Atlanta for 6 months out of those 2 seasons, 2 and 3. You know, I was there season 1 too, but there's no COVID. But during COVID in 2 and 3, we were all together for half the year creating a show right in the middle of this. There's a lot of mandates, testing, masks, you know, worries. Like everybody had that. Took longer, cost more. But the fact that we all got to do that together through this, you know, this 2 years plus of COVID and the lockdowns, that was a complete gift because, you know, like a lot of people, we were with other people. We were working, we were doing something, and it did help a lot. It helped us a lot. And I think that joy and that relief and that care and that love all went into the show. It's all up on screen. You know, the attitude of the cast, the crew, everyone that worked on it, the writers, the post team, everybody is in the show. That's why the show works, is because it's a recipe of great people.
I think a lot of these stars of the show are going to move on to bigger and better things, including Breck. I mean, you know, she's really a breakout actor, and it's been fun watching her grow up these 3 years.
It's been really, really fun. She's become I'm very, very close with all of them, but she's like, I mean, she's like my sister now. She's yeah, she's so great.
Yeah.
Though I'm old enough to be her dad, so I'll be a big brother, I guess. But she's yeah, she's a really special person and actor. And anybody who has her as a number one on the call sheet, they are so lucky because she's a joy to work with. She brings that enthusiasm, energy, talent, and warmth to what she does, like on and off the screen. But you know, she really embodied Stargirl. And again, like the fact that we got to do this trilogy of seasons and we all have that together. It's not just about the show for us. It's also about the relationships we made, you know. But the show, like I was really happy how this season turned out. People seem to really love it. And I can't wait to see how people react to the finale. Like, you know, it's already out there for them now, but I haven't talked to anybody yet. You're
sure.
one of the people that's seen it. So.
I hear you, man. No, we're recording this the day of the finale dropping, and you guys were kind enough to send me the final episode so that we could talk about the season completely.
Yeah.
No, really, where all these characters started and where they've gone, and of course we in the postscript we hear about where they're going.
Yeah.
I think all that was really satisfying, and man, I love in particular, and I know obviously he was always the head of the Injustice Society, Icicle, but man, his family and his parents. Jesus, from start to finish, the creepiest parents. And it's so great because you can just see them, especially this time of year, antiquing or whatever. And then these cold calculating killers and stuff. And I love that. It's fantastic.
I love his family. It's so interesting. I mean, all the characters I find incredibly interesting. And the more we spend time with them, whether it's the Crocs, you know, or the JSA or the McKents, like it is fun to dig deeper into them. Like we just scratched the surface in that first season, then we were able to go deeper with the McKents, and particularly this final episode. It was great to have Neil back, who plays Icicle, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
He was a great villain, man. He really was.
Great villain, and I think his, like, all his interactions with Cameron and Courtney, I love all that stuff. I love the final beat with him and Artemis. One of my favorite things, like the last 2 scenes, the Artemis Icicle scene, which I thought was really important, and the JSA headquarters, you know, the museum scene, with Shade and Jake Eric. Those 2 scenes, we almost couldn't shoot those because they were like the schedule was big because we had that gigantic fight scene, and that takes days. We don't do fights every episode because when we do them, we want them to be really fantastic. You know, we want them to be like that grocery store fight between Starman and the Crocs. or the fight between the McKents and the JSA in their house, or this final battle. Like, we really want to make sure that the fight scenes are epic, and we deliver on something that you don't expect from, you know, a broadcast show on CW. We really want to make sure that the show feels as special as possible. So we had a lot of days to do this, but my producer Joseph, he always worked so hard to make sure that we would figure it out. We'd figure out how to execute the creative, and that partnership is what allowed us to make things look bigger, because I was there every day and we go over budget and time and schedule with our ADs and our director and Joe, and we were able to somehow get those last two scenes, they're big scenes, last two scenes in, and they're vital scenes. I was so grateful. There's only one scene that, because of the time constraints for airing the episode, there's one scene between Mike and Jakeem and Buddy, the dog. That's one of the final scenes in the whole thing, the epilogues. We just had to cut it because it was the one scene we couldn't fit in that time slot. Okay. But luckily we completed it, and it's on the Blu-ray. So
okay.
So there's two scenes on the Blu-ray. There's a scene between also Pat and Croc. That's a really funny scene that we had to cut for time too. Again, that's, you know, streaming, one of your advantages is that you don't have a running time to cut to. But there were two scenes that dropped this season, and luckily they're on the Blu-ray.
Okay, and will they be available to like, will they be cut in from a streaming standpoint?
No, they'll be they're just extra. Yeah, they're just extra.
Okay. All right, fair enough. No, man, I understand. No, and really, Mike and Jakeem were a lot of fun. And hilarious. I love that they're the young all-stars.
Yeah, the young all-stars. Yeah, hilarious. I mean, obviously Roy Thomas, I'm a huge fan of all Roy Thomas's work, and so there's a lot of his work in there. A lot of it's inspired by Jerry Ordway and Roy. And James, of course, is a part of the show, so he's there, you know. But and so that goes without saying. James is like, I will work with James on, and he's so good in a writer's room. He always has been. And I've known him since I was 19. I've known him since I met him at a show, and he was so kind. One of the nicest creators ever that I met as a fan. We became friends, and he's a huge inspiration to me. He's an amazing writer and person. And I'm so grateful we got to do it together, because he was there the whole time, you know, and
yeah,
we had so much fun just delving into the history, and a lot of his amazing, you know, JSA, the Golden Age graphic novel, which if no one's read it, they should. If someone hasn't read it, they should. One of my favorite stories of all time.
Absolutely.
But a lot of that went into season 3, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of that went into season 3, which we didn't want to say at the beginning because it would have tipped our hand.
Sure, man.
You know, but yeah, having James there to dive into all that extra stuff it was so fun, because we'd spend a lot of time just ourselves, like coming with crazy ideas and stuff, and then with the writer's room, it was great to have all these wonderful people that some knew it, some didn't, but we all, you know, fleshed the stories out, made them better.
Well, when we saw in the credits that James was part of the show, and knowing your past collaborations with him in comics and his own contributions to the JSA through the title and also Starman and everything, no, we knew the franchise was in good hands. You guys got another nod, and it was so great to see. In going back to the Ultra Humanite story, that magazine cover with Congo Bill.
Oh, yeah, Congo Bill. Yeah.
Bill's the guy who discovered the white albino ape.
Yeah.
It becomes the Ultra Humanite.
Yeah, I love Congo Bill. Yeah, well, you know,
come on, who doesn't love Congo Bill?
I know, we always try to put in as much, like, because there's no sense in not doing it if we want to have, like, you know, the albino gorilla had to come from somewhere, so like, okay, well, it's modified from an actual albino gorilla, and let's have Congo Bill captured back in the day. Again, James is so vital for not just that stuff, but for all story. Like, there's any show I ever do, anything I ever do, I always want James at my side, because he's so good. He's so good in a room.
Well, you know, first of all, I want to point out that I've always loved that on the show how great the costumes were. And I don't know, man, it's tough to do accurate costumes, or at least close enough to what we get on paper, on TV, on film, without looking goofy. And I really felt like you guys managed it. I cropped that picture. It's just Courtney, Dr. Midnight, and Wildcat. But
yeah,
I love that Rick was using the original Rex uniform as well.
I mean, LJ Shannon did all our costumes, you know. almost all of them. And I worked with her on Titans and Doom Patrol. She does The Boys. She's amazing. Her and her team are fantastic, and she's a fan too. So when they do all the research, like they did Eclipso, like when they do all the research, it's expensive, but it's worth it because you're seeing those costumes. They got to look great. And one of the, I mean, it didn't make sense not to make them as accurate as possible. They're all very, very accurate. I don't think there's a single one in there that isn't, you know.
Yeah. No, again, really, great spins on them, and again, making them work for TV and film, I think is a real challenge. But yeah, they look great. And man, that final scene when Jay pops up,
so great.
And it's like, oh, there he is. That's isn't John? I mean, obviously he has the lineage doing Barry Allen back in the 90s, but what a stroke of genius to make John Jay Garrick.
He's the perfect Jay Garrick. He's just by the way, he's an incredible human being. Such a nice guy, so into the role, and he was so good. Like I love that again, they have such different energy, the Shade and Jay Garrick, and they brought it together. I love that profile shot. Walter Garcia directed the episode, did an amazing job with it. But I love that shot when he puts his helmet back on and he's ready for war, and but he's excited. Like you can tell he's not worried. He's just like, we got to take care of stuff. And the Shade's like, not again, right? It's just super fun. It's a great little send off for us. And also I wanted to have Jay Garrick in there because it was like you wanted one last kind of like one last cheer and one last surprise, and that was it.
You know, it reminded me of the way they ended Angel, in terms of, you know, they went out on a battle and literally, you know, Boreanaz's last line is, all right, let's get to work. Yeah. But yeah, man, no, and of course the postscript, no, it's never the end. Obviously, these stories will continue in our heads and your heads.
And Jay, that's what JSA is about. JSA is about a legacy that goes on forever, because it's about family. It's about, you know, generations. It's about all that stuff. And that's what JSA is about. And if you don't have that as a central part of it, it's just another superhero team. And so that was important, that we had to never the end at the end.
Well, and truthfully, Geoff, I mean, Rebirth, and you obviously were the spearhead of DC's Rebirth. That's what was missing with the New 52. And I, for whatever reasons there were, it's like, no, man, that's what makes DC great, is that it has this legacy history.
Yeah.
And embrace it. Don't run away from it. Don't make everybody their own hero and isolate them and stuff. No, and really, God, the original JSA run. I just had Don Kramer on
cool.
last month, and we were talking about it too. Yeah, man, and he sends his best. And I told him, I said, "Oh no, Geoff and I are talking soon." And no, it's, again, this is what you guys brought to the comic and stuff, and that's the warmth of the JSA, is like they see the responsibility of being the founders of the DC universe and passing that legacy on, and that's why I'm really excited about the new comic series that you're doing with Michael Janin.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, Mikkel, actually. Mikkel's amazing. He's
excuse me, Mikkel Janin. Yes, I want to say it right. So.
Yeah, he's so good. Every time I get a page from him, I'm blown away. But I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad we're working away on the book, and I'm glad to be doing it. It's a lot of fun.
So yeah, and what I love too, you know, you had your first Golden Age issue, which led to the first JSA issue, and we're up and running now. Obviously, we're looking at not only, I suppose, you know, a future JSA, but also we really are looking back at moments we didn't see from the 40s and the 50s and the 70s. So talk about that. Yeah, give us the 10-cent pitch on what you're doing with JSA right now.
Well, really, it's a story that takes place across, you know, all the decades that JSA has been active, and it's a time travel story. It focuses on, you know, the Huntress, the daughter of Batman Catwoman, who's from the future and has been a JSA member before and is now, as she comes face to face with this person she calls a stranger, but we know as Daguerreotype, time-traveling JSA villain who's out to eliminate the JSA legacy in a strange way, in a way he's doing, and we'll kind of peel back the layers of what he's really up to. And you know, I always thought Daguerreotype was a compelling character because he's rooted in, you know, the 40s, the original JSA, and there's some cool kind of like Third Third Reich occult stuff that he's into, that he's playing with right now. And we'll hear more of that in the series and as we go. But it's a lot of fun to revisit it. And I wanted to be in every era because that's what this is about, is JSA. It's about the legacy that you take on, about where they came from and about their future, and then drill down on the Huntress who's trying to live up to her father, who she lost, and figure out what his legacy means. And she's interpreted in a different way than I think many would.
Helena Wayne is a great character, and I loved her back when, was it Levitt Staten that originally created her back in the 70s?
Yeah.
And really, man, the whole Earth 2 and I mean, what started with Gardner Fox, but also what Levitz and Roy Thomas and everybody did with Earth 2, I think it's so important, and it's a great storyline. You don't want to lose that. And I saw at the end of issue 1 of JSA nods to things that we've seen before, like Bruce's funeral, and which was in Adventure Comics back in the day.
We're trying to take a lot of the, because there's really interesting backstory that was already created for her. So I'm trying to take a lot of it and use a lot of it that was there, and it adjusts and changes as we go, but trying to keep it intact as much as possible. And now she was, like, we'll find out she was in all those adventures in the 70s in the All-Star comics. Like, she'll be back in those.
Here, I'm going to show a page here with some great teases.
Very cool.
And there's the Wayne funeral first, and then you've got Jay running with, is that Boom? Is that the new kid?
That's the Boom. Yeah, Judy Garrick's daughter, who we're meeting in Stargirl: The Lost Children, and eventually will come over into JSA and the Flash. Very
cool. And then in 76, is this the introduction of the Super Squad, or is this?
It is. Yeah. Yep. So we'll get into that a little bit, and then of course we go back to 51, where the Vector is breaking into the facility that has his daughter being held.
This is great, man. No, the Red Lantern. No, I'm very intrigued by what he represents. So I think that's great.
One of the things that I think Roy did so smartly and wisely was when he did All-Star Squadron, he introduced a lot of new characters that exist, that he said existed back then, that we had not seen, like Amazing Man, the new Firebrand. Like, there was a lot of interesting characters.
Tarantula and Liberty Bell, right?
Well, they had existed already though in the 40s.
Oh, shame on me, because they're new. Their costumes.
Yeah.
I assume they were new, but there you go. You knew best, Geoff.
Yeah, they existed way back when. John,
I know. I know. I'm letting you down, man. I'm sorry.
But no, so like Roy introduced. But the great thing is that you don't know, right? But they're characters that exist. And one of the things that I felt was important, if we're going to go back to the 40s and the 50s and the decades prior, is to introduce new characters that existed then alongside ones that were established, simply because I want to continue to diversify the universe in terms of like stories we don't know, like, so that you say there's a Golden Age Red Lantern. What was he about? What did it mean?
Yeah.
Or Dr. Fate had a sidekick named Salem. Like, who was she? Or even Red Bee had a sidekick named Ladybug. Like, what was that all about? And even the smaller characters that that we're introducing, and the bigger ones like Jay's daughter Judy, it makes it, just for me, it makes it really fun, because then readers can go into these stories and they don't know what happens. They don't know what the fate was of these characters. They don't know everything. They don't know everything going back to the Golden Age now, and that's the whole point, is to really, create mystery and introduce characters that can connect with people, and you can get, and also make it new reader friendly too, because if no one's ever heard of Judy Garrick, well, you're with everybody else, right? You're on the ride with everyone else. You don't need to have heard of these characters. You don't need to have read anything about the JSA ever. You can pick up JSA 1. And although there's a lot of concepts in it, a lot of those characters are brand new. A lot of the things happening are brand new. We haven't seen before. All you need to know is that this is a team that's been around in a lot of different iterations, and it's passed these mantles on to other folks. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to introduce a lot of new characters, is because just like on Green Lantern or Teen Titans, like introducing Miss Martian or Zachary Zatara, like, you want to introduce new characters alongside the established ones, because it does, I think, connect with readers. It does, for me, it makes it exciting as a writer, to introduce all these all these new characters alongside the established ones. Because if you just keep using the same established ones, it's just not as, there's something cool about expanding the universe and continue to expand it with different voices and different characters and everything else.
No, you're right, Geoff. I mean, honestly, I love the JSA. I love the original team. And when I had heard that they were coming back, and certainly with the idea of Infinite Frontier and some of the other ideas that Josh and the others are injecting into the DCU, that I'm like, all right, well, God, I really appreciate what Lemire did with the Legion of Monsters, kind of replacing the old JSA during the 52. But I can't deny, and I know James was doing his Earth 2 new spin on the JSA. It just didn't feel the same because, unfortunately, I think you had the expectation of when you see Alan Scott and Jay Garrick that it's the Alan Scott and Jay Garrick we've always known. Now, though, what you're doing is you're playing with the old characters, but also introducing these new mysteries, not only from the past, but also taking it forward. And I think that's great because we're getting a mix of what we expect with the unexpected, and that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I love James's work on the Earth 2 book. I thought it was cool, and Jeff's work. I mean, all of Jeff's work too. Black Hammer is so good, by the way. If no one's read Black Hammer, is so good.
Everything that Lemire does, I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, I love that book. He's an amazing writer too.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know it's there was just a moment in time where DC didn't want characters existing in the 40s, and it happened too. Like every once in a while, it happens. I don't know why, but like in 0 Hour, remember they got rid of all the JSA. They just wanted to scrub anyone that was old.
Yes.
It was just I guess maybe it's because I'm older now that but I've always liked these characters. I always like characters and old. Just you want different types of characters in these books. You just do. But yeah, no, it's nice to have the history of the JSA back.
100%. Well, that's why I'm really excited about this new series too, because it's going to tell us untold tales of the past, but also a new stuff as well.
Yeah, present and future. Yeah.
Is it a limited series? Is it an ongoing? What's
no? It's a monthly. They mistakenly like they announced it as a monthly, launched it. Then in previews, I don't know why they listed it 2 of 12 and 3 of 12, but it's a monthly book. That was a mistake.
Good. That's great, man. And no, Mikkel, I've loved Mikkel's work with Tom King, and I think he's a great fit for the book. And a very distinct look and everything, and yet hints of what's come before. I mean, there's almost an Ordway feel to this book, and I know you love
Ordway's doing some pages in the book. We have some.
Oh, that's great. Well, maybe
that's probably why someone said this looks really like Ordway. I'm like, that flashback page, that is Ordway, and we have another sequence in two that cool. Jerry drew with Dr. Fate and Salem that I'm super excited about. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, just like Stargirl Lost Children. That's a lot of fun too. Both those books are they're just it's fun to work with characters that have been left kind of in the back of the closet for a while. That's what I always like doing too. I like taking I'd almost rather give me a character who needs dusting off and or is forgotten about, or maybe from the Rogues to to anybody like Aquaman or Shazam or whoever, like a JSA, Hawkman. I love all the characters that Mira that just have been just kind of left on the side of the road, while the rest of the DC universe moves on. And there's great. There's some now too that they're doing right now from the 80s and 90s that all these characters are so fun. It's just always fun to kind of grab, pick up one of those hitchhikers and take them for a ride.
Absolutely, man. No, that's great. Well, let's talk about the new Stargirl miniseries as well. Sure. Or it's what's great about both the JSA comic and the Stargirl thing. These are great things that if people clutch their heart and go, wait, no more Stargirl, it's like, don't worry, and no more JSA, don't worry, because again, you're putting it in the comics, and I think that's great. So tell us about the Stargirl miniseries.
Yeah, Stargirl. I mean, I've wanted to do something with her in the comics for a while now, and it just was serendipitous after Todd Knock and I did that special. It was like, hey, there was some interest in doing a miniseries, and I wanted to do, if we're going to do a miniseries, let's make it all about the younger characters that were part of the Golden Age, and expand that and look at that in a different way, and talk about sidekicks, what sidekicks meant, and really examine kind of JSA was the adults and Stargirl Lost Children was the kids, and look at those two worlds essentially in different ways, but in the same. They're connected a little bit, but you can read them completely separately or both. And so we're going with Todd Knock, who's doing the work of his career on this book. It's so detailed, so beautiful, so good. Um, and our editor Andrew Marino has been awesome with all, like, because we have so much reference and talking through these stories and introducing these characters in emotional ways. But we wanted to create a mystery. Stargirl created a mystery that you pulled one thread, and it just led to these, like, all these lost teenage heroes from the golden age. A lot of them we know, a lot of them we don't. And it's the same ways that we're exploring it together, so that you don't need to know anything. You can come in here and be like, I don't know who anybody is. That's fine. Neither do they. Right. So we're meeting them for the first time, really. And the story is all about that one of these kind of forgotten sidekicks, Dynamite, who was the very first sidekick to lose their mentor because he was killed, TNT, was tracking down what happened to these other sidekicks like him. And there was a mystery he uncovered, and he disappeared. And so now Courtney, with the help of Green Arrow's younger sister, Red Arrow, have teamed up to go to try and find out who they are. And in Stargirl issue 2, you know, Courtney's like, let's go. Like, everyone's saying, like, there's no evidence here that's leading to anything. But Courtney's like, if somebody's out there, we're going to find them. And it really moves Red Arrow, because her beginnings was that she was lost on an island. She grew up on an island with someone who fed her a lot of lies and tried to train her as an assassin to get revenge on her father. And ultimately became, was rescued and became Red Arrow, and this is where she is now. But this resonates with her because no one came for her. Like, she had a whole life she grew up with, and it feels like no one came for her. No one looked for her. That's how she feels. And so it takes it personal that saving these kids, if they're lost and forgotten, finding them and bringing them home, that it matters. And Courtney knows how much it means to her. And it's like, even if there's one out there, one that we bring back, it'll help my friend. And so this is personal for them too. And that's what makes Courtney so great as a character, Stargirl so great as a character, the can-do attitude, the let's do this, and knowing and understanding what it means to people to do it. She really knows inherently what people need and how good they are, and she wants to help people, and so that kind of pairing, and it echoes like the original Seven Soldiers, Star Spangled Kid and Red Speedy were on the team. So it's a really nice thing. But to have them together on it, like, I'm really excited about issue 2. There's some stuff in it that's going to blow people's minds. But it's a really, really fun miniseries. It's got a lot of heart in it, a lot of fun in it. And it's kind of like, for Todd and I, a modern day, like, epic Young Justice story, because I used to love what Peter, David, and Todd would do on Young Justice, and they go big and do like Sins of Youth or all these insane stories where all these characters would come in. And I really wanted to kind of capture a spark of that with Todd and get to the golden age of it all and just have fun. Like, really, it's just a fun book. And again, for people who like Stargirl, who watch the show and haven't read a comic, there's a book out for them for now, and they can read the book and enjoy it. There'll be a trade of at some point, and it's nice to come full circle on that character with Todd too, who I met the first Comic-Con I was at in San Diego as a pro, and we became friends. So it's really special to be able to do it.
That's great, man. And really, I just appreciate Courtney as a character, because I think, and this is me saying this, sometimes I think some of these legacy characters come in with and immediately are equipped to handle the situation, and they kind of miss that hero's journey. And I feel with Courtney, she is on that journey. Her tenacity has always been there, and that's inherent, and that's great because you want that from a hero.
I call her, she's the opposite of a reluctant hero, right?
Right.
She's over-enthusiastic, overconfident hero, and it gets her in trouble a lot. But that's part of the charm of the character. That's why I love writing the character, because she is just running toward it. She is going to go for it. And Pat's a great foil for her
Absolutely.
in the show, because he's like overly cautious and overly hesitant. But I like that. I like the character because she's incredibly virtuous, and she's incredibly kind, and she never gives up. She doesn't really take no for an answer, and she's fun because she's not perfect either. She makes tons of mistakes.
Yep.
Like, she's going to give somebody a chance when maybe she shouldn't. She's going to try and do something that she's not ready to do. Like, she's going to go somewhere that maybe she should have thought about first. And you can see her arc in the comics, because it is from the very first Stars and Stripe and JSA books to now, and also this show. It's the same arc where she's got to learn to kind of find a little balance in her life. She's got to learn to like maybe think things through a little bit more, maybe include and communicate a little bit better, maybe think things through a little bit more, maybe not think she can always handle it. But I like that she's never going to quite get there, you know?
Sure. Well, and again, she's young, and again, but that's what makes her human too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the best heroes still have frailties that they have to overcome.
Yeah.
I mean,
my hope would be Stargirl would be eternally youthful, you know? That's the name of the character.
I'm with you, man. No, absolutely. And by the way, it reminds me to go back to the TV show. Man, some of those great moments between Luke Wilson and Joel McHale when we don't realize that it's the Ultra Humanite, but Starman is just cutting Stripesy down.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man. And especially given the journey we've been on with Pat from season 1, and of course us old comic book fans that love Stripesy and everything. And it's like, hey, Starman, back off, man. What are you doing? This is
Joel played it perfectly, because there's moments throughout the whole season where you're like, he's kind of a dick, right? He's a jerk. And then you're like, I understand where he's coming from, or I like him, or he feels bad. And so you're always trying to kind of pin down how you feel about him, right? And even in the penultimate episode with 12, where he's like tells Artemis, like, you go on this trek, I'm going to kill him for you. And you're kind of like, you like that, right? Because he's helping her. But then he just is brutal with Pat, brutal with Courtney, and you just can't stand him. And then you think, oh, wait, he said all that stuff to protect them. And then you think, well, maybe I do understand him. And maybe he's like, and then you get the twist at the end. It was so fun to work on, because we all were like, we're building to that one moment in 12, that one moment. And then 13, we hopefully pay everything off to people's satisfaction. I feel like we hopefully will.
I think you did.
I hope people enjoy it. I really do.
I loved Luke, coming out of the ground and everything,
so
just clawing his way out, because he get a very, very Steve Ditko Spider-Man moment.
Yes,
or even J.M. DeMatteis and the Craven story.
Yeah,
where he's buried.
Yeah, for us, that moment was really Pat's rebirth in a way, because in his mind, he has been, even in the back of his mind, he's still sidekick. He is a sidekick, and
absolutely.
And this last episode was all about him being the hero. Like, he's no side. Like, he steps up, and he's the hero in that. He takes out the villain, right? And he claws himself out of that grave, and he shows up, and he is the hero that these kids need, and that he just is. That's
absolutely
who he is. And
that's
the
reluctant hero. There's your reluctant, I don't know if I'm really able to do this. And then, of course, when the chips are down, he rises to the occasion. And hats out to Luke. 3 great seasons, man. I mean, and it was so literally from day one, it's like, it's so like, he's the last guy I would cast as Stripesy, and yet he was so perfect for it. And just again, that guy that knows how this stuff works and is just trying to watch out for his daughter. But by the same token, it's like, he's lived it, and you just feel it. I mean, he really embodied Pat Duggan. It was like, oh, that's the guy. There he is, man.
Yeah, I wrote the thing for Luke. Like, I always had him in mind for
interesting.
Always. So when I wrote the script, I sent it to his reps, and he read it. We met for lunch. I'd never met him before, and we had a great time talking about the character and the story and what the show was. And luckily, he signed on. I mean, he's become one of my best friends now. But
wonderful.
He's so good in it. But I actually, forever, I've had him in my mind as Pat Dugan, because Pat Dugan's so humble and so grounded and such a just nice guy. And that's really who Luke is too, who he embodies.
And Amy Smart too. I mean, my God. And it really, those scenes with Icicle, where Icicle really obviously cares a lot about her and would love to be more to her.
Yeah.
And just her, like, no,
her defiance.
Man. Yeah, you're evil. You're out.
I love the scene. I mean, one of the best scenes that when we were on the soundstage mixing and in editing, the best scene I think with Amy that just it crushes me every time I watch it is the scene at the end with her, Mike, and Pat when Mike goes to see his biological mom. It's a really moving scene, and Amy's so good in that scene because that moment must be so hard for her as a mom, a stepmom, because she's conflicted. Like, you want the best for these kids, but it also could hurt you too. Like, it's hard because you don't want to feel that, but you do.
No, I really felt like the step family aspect of Stargirl, you guys handled it really well. I experienced a step family,
Yeah.
and some of it was good, and some of it wasn't good. So
Yeah.
it's very complicated, and I think it's a rough road for both the original parents and the step parents. And I think Amy really played it well.
Oh, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. No, again, man, great cast, great writing. The crew, the as I told you from day one, the music that you managed to slip in there was always appropriate. And yeah, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed these 3 seasons. I'm glad you were able to tell it on your terms and finish it the way you wanted to finish it.
Yeah, I am too. It was really a gift,
Yeah.
a gift for for the character of my family and everybody that worked on it. It was really fun.
Well, let's talk. If we still have a bit of time, I want to talk about Junkyard Joe.
Sure, a few minutes. Yeah,
Absolutely. And this is great. You and Gary Frank back together again. Your own spin on a GI robot sort of character, but also a love letter to the history of comics in terms of the creation of Junkyard Joe and Mad Ghost. I love it. Your production company
yeah,
is front and center in
yeah,
Junkyard Joe.
yeah. I mean, Junkyard Joe is. It's interesting because his first issue takes place in '72, but the rest of the story takes place today, present day. And it's all about this soldier named Muddy Davis, who in 1972 in Vietnam had a platoon he was very close with, and they get this new soldier. And during this battle, this new soldier doesn't say a word, and they're supposed to all go home soon. And during this battle, they're ambushed, and this new soldier is exposed to be actually some kind of robot, and it protects them. It watches out for them. And over the course of the next few days, it bonds with them. And you see it becoming like learns how to play cards, and they're talking to him. And yet he has no emotion, but it feels like there's a ton of emotion in him. And when they're ambushed again and everyone dies except this soldier Muddy, who Joe saves, there's a voice in Joe's ear that says, head back to base, head south, but he goes north after the men who kill his friends, essentially, and he hunts them down and kills them all, and then he shuts down, and Muddy wakes up in the infirmary and thinks he saw this robot, but people are telling him, like, look, you see things out there in the jungle that aren't there. And he ultimately keeps him to himself and convinces himself that it wasn't what he saw. And we flash forward to 50 years, and he has since become a cartoonist who draws this like Peanuts like Beetle Bailey strip called Junkyard Joe that's about a robot in boot camp who does everything perfectly, and all the privates are trying to be as good as Joe and be a robot like the army wants, be a soldier who just does what it's told. And it's a really fun, political but light and warm strip that he's drawn for decades now. That's a cover of the villain, the Custodian, who's after Joe.
This is issue 4 that's coming up in January, everybody.
Really cool issue. The first page of this will make people cock their heads in a weird way. It's really fun. But the story then continues on with Joe today, and he's just lost his wife. He's just stopped drawing the Junkyard Joe strip, which is very, very famous in the world, and he's a bit of a recluse. And one night during a storm, Joe shows up on his porch looking exactly like he looked in 1972, and Muddy's life is turned upside down. And then the rest of the story follows what happens next. But it's 6-issue series. Gary and I are just wrapping it up on our end right now, and we're really proud of it. This is something that there's these moments where Gary and we've worked together consistently now since like Action Comics in 2000, I think 5 or 6. Like, we've been working together for a long time, and there's something about when we connect on a story with the heart of it. This feels like it's got a lot of heart in it, and it reminds, I think, Gary and I both tonally, in a strange way, of Shazam a little bit. And, we're having so much fun with these human characters. We're spending so much time with these human characters. Or Superman Secret Origin, when we did that, every time we were in the Daily Planet, oh my, we just loved it. We loved being with characters with heart humor. It was so fun. And then to contrast that with the action and the danger of what the story was, when we hit that balance, it's just like there's always got to be heart in our stories. But like Gary and I look back, and I think we're really grateful and lucky because the books we've done, we've always tried to create stories that anybody can pick up, that are kind of, they've got history in them or continuity. But even in DC, you know, Batman Earth 1 volumes 1 through 3, Shazam,
Doomsday Clock, right?
Yeah, Doomsday Clock, Superman and the Legion of Superheroes, Superman Brainiac, Superman Secret Origin. It feels like the books that we managed to do together, you can kind of hand them to anybody and they can read them, because we always try and tell these human emotional stories. And Gary is so expressive.
So much so, yes.
It's crazy how detailed and good he is at what he does. And he's so consistent. I mean, the work in Doomsday Clock was such a giant undertaking for us. And it only could have been done because we talked every day about the story, the characters, what we were doing, because there's all these different layers. Like, one of our favorite storylines in that is the Carver Coleman storyline, who played Nathaniel Dusk. Like, his whole backstory and that following that story and how it ends, it's so heart-wrenching and then heartwarming, you know. And it's all about the choices we can make and the choice he ultimately made.
Well, I'll give Gary credit, because like Kurt Swan in his prime, and also Kevin Maguire, who still does it, Gary is a guy who really can achieve emotional moments on faces.
Absolutely.
That I think, you know, yeah, and you feel the pain. You know, really. God, Rags, going back to Identity Crisis.
Oh,
right?
yeah, Rags did that. Yeah, he did that.
You know, I mean, it's moments like that I think make certain artists really, you know, stand out. And so yeah, great. No, I'm really glad you and Gary are doing this. I'm really glad you're doing original stuff, man. I mean,
oh, it's so fun. I mean, after Doomsday Clock, I think Gary and I really wanted to just start new stuff, create new stuff, and just take a break. And it's been fun. You know, we got Geiger, which is right here, working on right now.
Yes, indeed.
But it's been really fun. It's been a lot of fun. And there's a lot of other creator-owned books I've got in the pipeline we just haven't talked about yet.
All right. Well, in our final seconds here, anything that we haven't spoken of that you can mention coming up? Or
no, just I just want to say, for everyone out there that has watched Stargirl these 3 seasons, thanks for watching the show. Everyone really appreciates and knows the fan base that watches the show and has gotten into it and hooked into it and helped express their love for it. It means a lot to us. And again, it's bittersweet today or yesterday for those people that we that the show's ending, but we're very grateful for it.
Well, you're part of this great wave of DC television shows in the last couple of years that, even only getting around 39 episodes or whatever the final count was, I'm certain they will stand the test of time. And years from now, people will look back, remember how great Stargirl was and the impact that it made under weird circumstances. But thank God, man, I'm glad that it got out there. I'm glad CW ran it when it did. And yeah, man, you guys, this is take the victory lap, man. You deserve it. Well done.
Thanks, John. Great seeing you as always, too.